Imagine discovering the love of your life in the arms of another, in the very bed you built with your own hands. My name is Jake, and what unfolded in the dead of night shattered my entire world. I'm 32 years old, and just a few hours ago, I discovered my wife, Rachel, who is 30, cheating on me in our bed. At the moment, I am hiding out in my dad's old fishing cabin, trying to figure out my next steps. I feel completely shattered and worthless. The fury inside me is overpowering. My entire life has just been turned upside down, and I have absolutely no one to talk to. The one person I thought I could trust has just betrayed me, and then had the audacity to lie about it. I scared the hell out of 3 people, including myself. If the police are not currently searching for me, I am fortunate. If they are, I will deal with it when the time comes. I work in construction, specifically in demolition. My team and I travel a lot, and I had been away for 10 days out of the 14 I was scheduled to be gone. Due to rain, it is difficult to blow up wet things, and the weather forecast, I decided to fly back home until we could work again. My flight did not land until midnight. Wanting to surprise Rachel, I did not tell her I was coming. I drove the 45 minutes from the airport to our house. 8 years ago, Rachel found a beautiful piece of land far from any other homes through her job in real estate. 2 years later, I finished building our house, which we have cherished ever since. We have a 4-car garage, so any cars parked in front are unusual. Seeing a black SUV I did not recognize made my heart sink. I knew immediately. I had not sensed any issues in our marriage. We had not had any arguments. Our sex life was great and frequent, but somehow, I knew right then what I would find once I went inside. If the car had belonged to a relative of hers, she would have informed me. Part of me hoped it was a female co-worker who had too much wine and needed to sleep it off, but that would have been highly unusual. I sat outside the house for at least 15 minutes, thinking things over. I parked my car inches from the driver's side of the SUV, next to a retaining wall. Whoever it belonged to would not be leaving without my permission or breaking a window. I turned off my car and entered through the back door via the deck. I have a concealed carry permit for a gun, which I holstered before getting into my car at the airport. I was not afraid for my life, but I was afraid of losing my temper and taking someone else's. Walking into my house, everything was silent. At first I thought no one was home, but with a finished meal for 2 on the table and a sink full of dishes, I knew something was up. I calmly walked down the hall to our bedroom and slowly turned the knob. I pushed the door open, but did not hear any commotion or movement. The room was pitch black. I walked over and turned on the bathroom light. When I turned around, there was Rachel, completely naked, lying on top of some naked guy I'd never seen before. I was crushed. It felt like someone had just laid a 100-pound boulder on my chest. I felt tears welling up in my eyes, but I knew tears were pointless. I pulled out my phone and started recording. I walked around the bed, filming the heap of bodies in front of me. It began to sink in that my marriage was over. I realized all our property would be divided evenly, even though I have been 100% faithful. I suddenly realized the house I built with my own hands would have to be sold when we divided assets in the divorce. Being physically betrayed felt worse than any pain I could have imagined. Knowing I was about to be financially gutted too nearly drove me insane because it seemed so unfair. But I knew I was done with her and would never touch her defiled body again. I was disgusted by what I saw, but mostly by Rachel. In my mind, she had gone from a sweet, devoted wife to a street crack whore in the span of 15 minutes. Neither of them moved at all. I was fairly certain they were both passed out drunk. Since the house was going to be sold, I did not care about any damage to it. I pulled out my .45 and just stared at both of them, betraying me in my own bed. For a second or two, I thought about shooting her, knowing those bullets would pass right through and kill him as well. But I came to my senses and realized neither was worth getting the electric chair over. And despite the hurt I was feeling, I knew I might want to keep on living after all was said and done. So I pulled back the hammer of my gun, lifted it into the air, aiming to my upper right, and fired off 2 rounds into the ceiling. They both woke up instantly. Rachel scrambled to push herself off the guy, and he shoved her to the floor before locking eyes with me. Fear does not quite capture the look in his eyes, compared to the sheer terror in Rachel's eyes. He looked almost calm. She tried to tell me it was not what it looked like, so I fired around through the bedroom closet door. She shut up real quick, while he still had not said a word. They were each seated on opposite sides of our bed, the sheet pulled up to their necks. I demanded to know who the guy was, and he introduced himself as Peter. Then I turned to Rachel and asked how she knew him, and she said he ran his own real estate business. When I inquired about how long their affair had been going on, since I had been in the dark, she had the audacity to claim it was their first and only time together. I responded by firing 2 shots into the headboard between them. They both started sobbing and pleading with me to stop, so I asked the question again. To my surprise, Peter confessed it had been going on for 6 months. That infuriated me, but at least I had the truth. I asked Rachel when she stopped loving me, and through her tears she lied and said she never stopped. I fired 2 shots into the bathroom on her side of the bed, and she screamed as the mirror shattered, sending glass everywhere. I called her a lying, worthless whore and told her I was done with her deceit. She was clearly having a panic attack, and for good reason. But at that moment, I did not care. I asked Peter if he was married. He admitted that he was. I asked if he had kids who would miss him. He swallowed hard and admitted he had 2 children. I sarcastically thanked him for showing me Rachel's true nature before we had kids. I asked if sleeping with a cheating slut was worth losing his wife and children. He begged me not to tell his wife. I told him to shut up because there was a good chance his wife would end up a widow. For the next 15 minutes, I paced at the foot of the bed with my gun drawn, trying to think. I knew keeping them there against their will could be considered taking hostages. I knew I would eventually have to let them go. I told Rachel to get up and get her car keys. She got out of bed and started reaching for her clothes on the floor. I told her to stop. She did not need clothes, and just get the keys. She walked down the hall and returned with her keys, still crying. I removed the house key and told her she would not be needing it anymore. I knew she wanted to argue that I could not do that, and legally she was right. But a .45 caliber gun tends to make legal debates pointless. I then instructed Peter to stand, get his keys and wallet from his pants, and follow me. I led him outside to his car and punched him repeatedly in the face until his nose and mouth were bleeding. After moving my car so he could get into his SUV, I went back, picked up his keys, and told Peter to stand up. I told him he could either go home and confess everything to his wife right then, or she would hear from me within 48 hours with all the evidence of his cheating that I had recorded. I also told him he had 45 seconds to get off my property, or a coroner would be taking him away. The fact that he was naked seemed secondary at the moment. He got in his car and sped away before I counted to 25. I went back inside where Rachel had put on a robe and was sitting at the kitchen table. I went to the bedroom, grabbed her cell phone and brought it to her. I asked if she wanted to call her parents or her sister to pick her up. She refused. I even asked if she wanted to call the police. I think she expected us to discuss things to clear the air, so she said no. She began to try and explain, but I cut her off and told her we were done forever as far as I was concerned. I explained that our home was no longer her home, and she needed to get in her car and go anywhere that was not our house. I told her I no longer felt any love for her after what she had done, and that there would be no second chances. She began to apologize, cry, and plead. 2 shots into the double oven and 1 into the fridge brought blessed silence. Having your nearest neighbor over 2 miles away has its benefits. I told Rachel that at that moment I did not care if I lived or died, and that she had completely destroyed me with her actions. I told her that all the love I ever had for her turned to hate the moment I saw her and Peter naked together. If I could have snapped her out of existence, and my memory, I would have. I told her I was barely holding it together with the feelings of loathing I had for her. I said it would be best if she went to the garage, got in her car, and drove away forever. Through her tears, she went to the garage, got in her car, and left. That was about 5 hours ago. Realizing that my actions might have crossed some legal lines, I didn't want to stick around for the cops to show up. I turned off all the lights, locked the doors, and got back into my car. My dad owns a fishing cabin that he and his buddies use quite often. I drove there and used the hidden spare key to let myself in. It was way too early to call anyone when I arrived. I decided I needed a drink, and I'm about a quarter of the way through a bottle of my father's Balvenie scotch. Dad is going to be furious about that until I tell him what Rachel did. Plus, I'm pretty sure it's the bottle I got him for his birthday last month. I'm completely at a loss for what to do. Most people seem to be trying to figure out if their spouse is cheating. I already know the truth. Well, I know as much of the truth as I care to know because the reasons for infidelity all seem meaningless. I want a divorce. I want it to be in my favor and as quick as possible. She doesn't get to choose me ever again. I am a person, not a prize at a carnival. I want to erase her from my life and destroy any reminder of her. I never want to see or hear from her again. Can everything be handled by lawyers? I have the money to get things started. What I do not have is the time, energy, and patience to deal with this crap. 8 years of marriage wasted. 8 years that now feel like one giant lie, because after what I saw, how can I believe anything she ever said to me? 8 years of my life wasted on a deceitful, lying fraud. Part of me wishes I had shot them both and then taken my own life. But that might be the Scotch talking. Jesus, I have to get tested just to make sure that whore didn't give me anything. Actually, now that I think about it, I have wasted a decade on her. Her actions have invalidated my life and erased any value my time with her had. The only thing I will take from this marriage is that honesty and loyalty are dead. The only thing permanent about any relationship nowadays is herpes. That crap is forever. Love and marriage are total lies. I am feeling really, really low right now. Some people probably think I am some knuckle-dragging Neanderthal for reacting with violence and threats. I also know some will criticize me for using one of my guns. I didn't shoot anybody, and the bedsheets were already ruined before I fired a shot. If the bullet holes reduce the house's selling price by a few thousand, I can live with that. I just can't handle this crap. Part of me wants to just eat a damn bullet and be done with it. The life I had is over, and it is not coming back even if I wanted it to. People are going to say I dodged a bullet, ironic, by not having kids with Rachel and discovering she is disloyal. It does not feel that way right now. I go from crying uncontrollably to a rage I have never known. Either I face this or just end it all. And right now, the second option seems better. Maybe if I pass out and get some sleep, things won't seem as bad. But I doubt it. The weather forecast indicates things will clear up enough to work in a few days, so I will need to catch a plane the day before. I don't like the region we're working in for various reasons, but part of me just wants to stay there when the job is done and not come back. Part of me wants to figure out where I want to start over, if I even want to deal with starting over. How do I choose which lawyer to hire? Is there an online rating system for legal assistance? I despise lawyers, members of the most despicable profession. Now I have to find the most ruthless lawyer I can find. Nothing is going to take this heartache away anytime soon. What the hell am I supposed to do? What is the point of doing anything? The person I was devoted to is gone forever, and tonight I learned she never truly existed. I wasn't perfect by any means, but I was faithful. I was never abusive. She had never heard me really yell until tonight. I was a good husband. I enjoyed being married and faithful. But for every good guy out there, some slut is just waiting to sink her claws into him and ruin his life for her gain. To hell with this life, my soon-to-be ex-wife, and relationships. I'm just rambling now. Guess I'll go to bed. When I wake up, I guess I'll call my parents and fill them in on what happened. I am in shock, and I have never felt heartache like this before. Maybe tomorrow I'll feel better. Update. I know some people will say I went overboard or acted irrationally. It appears the law agrees with them. This update will be quite satisfying for those who are against guns. So let me start by saying that I am now facing legal consequences. I was arrested for making threats, aggravated assault, assault with a deadly weapon, and a few other charges that are either misdemeanors or felonies. If I am found guilty of the felonies, even with no prior record, I could be looking at over 25 years in prison. It is unlikely I will get that much time, but it is possible. Ironically, if I had actually shot Peter or my wife in a fit of rage, I might be facing less time. Instead of confessing to his wife, Peter went straight to the police. He told them about being caught with a married woman and somehow managed to get their sympathy. The deputy who took his statement was one of the officers who arrested me the next day. Everything went smoothly as I did not resist. In hindsight, I think Peter getting me charged was a strategic move. The judge at my arraignment ordered that I have no contact with Peter or his family, so I have not been able to reach out to his wife at all. By getting me arrested, Peter accomplished a few other things too. I had to inform my job about the charges, which meant I could not leave the state. They went into a panic because my job is very specialized. It took them 2 weeks to find someone with the same qualifications. And now I am jobless. This complication made it harder to get lawyers. Before I could even consider a divorce attorney, I had to focus on a defense attorney. I was served divorce papers 2 days ago. It is clear my wife intends to take everything, but she and I have not spoken since that night. She has called and texted, but I have not read, answered, or responded to any of it. I despise her. I will never get over this. I cannot move on. My life as I knew it is gone. I have been staying with my parents. They have been incredibly supportive. But in this situation, there is not much anyone can say. Right now, everyone is focused on the criminal charges I am facing and keeping me out of jail. The fact that I have lost my wife and future has been put on hold, even after receiving the divorce papers. I have heard my mom crying for me in private. This is tearing my parents apart too. They should not be worrying that their son might be going to prison. They should be enjoying their retirement. I guess I have not only ruined my own life, but someone else has destroyed mine. I spend most days in my childhood room, waiting for the next blow. I suspect that my wife is helping Peter or the police against me in court. She certainly is not obstructing anyone. Again, I have not talked to her, so I do not know what she is thinking. But if she despises me as much as I despise her, she is probably making sure I get what she thinks I deserve. I am sorry this update is not more positive. Those who always advocate for leaving and divorcing a cheating spouse will be pleased to know that is happening no matter what. I just do not know if it will happen while I'm free or if it will occur while I'm serving time. I was talking with my cousin the other night, and he casually mentioned dating again. He did not mean any harm, but it felt so off. Forget about trusting another woman again. I have not even begun to think about that. Then it hit me that if things go badly, my next date could be with a guy named Jerome. My lawyer is fighting hard to win my case, not just keep me out of jail. I appreciate that, and that is what needs to happen. But I cannot survive prison. If I'm convicted, even without jail time, my career is over. But prison I cannot handle. I have been in shock since the moment I turned the lights on and saw my wife with another man. This nightmare just keeps getting worse. I feel like I am watching a horror movie that I cannot turn off. This seemed clearer in my head than it looks written down. But this is the best I can do right now. My life is a complete mess, and cheating is entirely to blame. Update. Since my last update, a lot has happened, and I will do my best to explain it, though I might mess up some legal terms. From what I understand, federal law requires both sides to present all evidence and potential witnesses before a trial. My lawyer had a reason for keeping the video of my soon-to-be ex-wife and Peter's affair under wraps. It was more of a hearing than a trial, but there was a judge presiding. My lawyer introduced a USB drive as evidence, but showed the footage on a tablet. Long story short, Peter either did not know or forgot that I had proof. I remembered putting my phone away after recording them before I pulled my gun, so they never saw a phone. Peter refused to testify and the charges were dropped. His father is a retired judge, and as a business owner, Peter could not afford to have that footage made public. So I dodged a major bullet. My lawyer was confident she could have gotten a jury to acquit me, but avoiding charges and a trial altogether is even better. Peter left the courtroom before I was released. As soon as I turned my phone on, I received a flood of missed texts and calls from a random number, which I assumed was my wife. I ignored them, not reading or listening to any of them. I figured she had just learned about the video evidence and was either trying to make peace or start a fight. Her lawyer could talk to mine. And no, I still have not communicated with her in any way. The moment I saw her cheating, she was dead to me. If I want to talk to the dead, I will hold a seance. I have a top-notch divorce attorney, and he was the first person I tried to call after the charges were dropped. Obviously, the footage will be crucial in divorce court, so I cannot show it to Peter's wife just yet. I would think she would hear about it through the grapevine, but who knows? Peter probably made some preemptive move and told his wife something just in case. But I highly doubt he gave a full confession. My parents were relieved when I called them on vacation to share the unexpected good news. We all thought it would go to trial. None of us expected that hearing to end things on the criminal front. Now, I am focusing on the divorce, and my lawyer has my wife's filed divorce papers. It is not going to be the easy ride my soon-to-be ex-wife thought it would be. Right now, she is living in the house, which puts me at a disadvantage. but my lawyer is hoping to counter that with some legal filings. I do not want to move back into that house. I could never live there after what I witnessed. Plus, I heard it needs repairs and new appliances. But honestly, I do not want her to have it either. With housing prices so high, I want it sold along with the land. She should not get it, especially since she is the one who ruined the marriage. If she wanted to keep living there, she should have kept her legs closed. Actions have consequences, and if she thinks a fling was worth losing a house, she is not cut out for real estate. As for my job, I plan to spend this week either getting my old job back or finding a new one. I do not want to displace anyone, especially in such a specialized field, but I have to pay for lawyers now. I know the person who replaced me cannot have the same experience and knowledge I do, plus familiarity with the team. I do not think I will be unemployed for long. I never thought I would say I will be glad to get back to work, but the past few months have been anything but a vacation. I need something else to focus on besides the divorce. And I want to put that awful night behind me. I am lucky I am not dead, and very lucky I am not in prison. But the whole situation just makes me furious. Not just the money wasted on legal fees, the time wasted, the lies I believed, the deception. I never truly knew her, and to think I acted like a fool over someone who never really cared is disturbing. If you want to lose it over a loyal, loving partner, fine. But to go crazy over a liar? Not worth a single punch, let alone gunfire. Learn from my mistake. It is not worth it. If people could just be honest, with themselves and others, that would be great. My soon-to-be ex-wife keeps trying to reach out. The time for communication was before she betrayed me. I want to start over somewhere new, but not too far from my parents. I need to be far enough away to avoid running into my soon-to-be ex-wife or her affair partner. I dislike big cities, but small towns have their own drawbacks. I make good money, or at least, I did and will again. The idea of starting fresh after the last couple of months is really appealing. I just cannot decide where to go. I just know I do not want to stay here. I am so grateful we did not have children, because that would have made this experience even more unbearable. It is a relief to be able to cut her out of my life completely without a child tying us together. And I do love kids. I would still love to have children one day, but thank God I did not have any with a woman who could do this to me. At least I know I can rebuild my life and career. I am really down about life right now, but knowing I have freedom and opportunities gives me hope. I can move on from her as a huge mistake in my life, a tragedy of epic proportions. I know I need therapy after all this, and I have an appointment scheduled in 2 weeks to start individual counseling. I already know I will get called out for my anger issues, but I need to hear it, and I need someone to help me piece my life back together after everything fell apart. What I did was wrong. I admit that. I can only improve myself going forward. I cannot change who I was. Update. I have been pondering for days how to even begin to explain what has happened and where things stand. I owed it to those who have given me good advice since my screw-up to give an update. But just telling what has happened, with all the details and drama, would take way too long. Our lawyers started corresponding. My soon-to-be ex-wife's side kept requesting that she and I talk, and I kept refusing. My lawyer tried pushing the negotiations forward on our end. Every time the house and property were mentioned, my lawyer said her side was acting twitchy, whatever that means. But they still insisted on a face-to-face meeting, saying it was important for both our futures. I still wanted to say no, but my lawyer basically told me I would have to see her in court eventually, and we should meet now. They knew we had evidence of infidelity, but had not seen it. My lawyer wanted to know what they would say, and their strategy. I just did not want to see her or hear her voice. They were not willing to do a group text, so we met in person. We met in a conference room at my lawyer's office. I was seated when my wife and her lawyer arrived. I wanted my gaze to convey a mix of hatred and disgust. She started crying and walking toward me, so apparently, it did not work. I told her to back off, which made her cry harder. I began moving away from her, which got her to stop approaching. I will spare everyone the specifics, but I cursed her out worse than anyone has ever been cursed out. Before that night, she had never heard me yell at her. Before that day in the conference room, I had never cursed at her, not even that horrible night. I let it all out. Every vile thought I had about her, every horrible thing I believed about her, and everything I wished would happen to her. Her lawyer was shocked, and mine was a little surprised. but I told him to expect it when he agreed to the meeting. My wife finally realized that I meant every word and that I hated her for what she had done to us, what she had done to me. We had to take a 30-minute break to calm down before we could continue the meeting. When we resumed, my wife requested to speak to me without interruption. I cannot give a word-for-word account of what she said, but I will summarize. She started by saying she was extremely sorry for everything that had happened. She wished I would talk to her or answer her texts, but accepted that was not going to happen after what I said earlier. Then she mentioned that the land we own could be worth a lot of money in the near future. Apparently, a well-known company might want to purchase a large amount of land to build on. The deal would depend on getting other landowners to sell. And we are talking about a significant amount of acreage. Our land is in a prime location, close to a power station, major highway, airport, and water source. It fits all of their criteria. Then she said we really need to discuss the land because she cannot sell it without me. I cut her off right there. But you would have sold it if I'd gone to prison, right? I stated. Her lawyer's reaction confirmed my suspicion. She then tried to claim she told Peter not to press charges. My anger surged. I wanted to hit something, but I cannot hit a woman, and my lawyer would not let me. It did not matter that they stayed in contact after that night. It still enraged me. She explained they had to stay in touch because he was handling the land deal. As the agent, he stands to profit immensely. As the owners, we stood to gain even more. Peter's extensive government and real estate connections were thanks to his parents' careers. But when he saw a chance to remove me from the picture, he took it. He never showed up naked. He had clothes in his car, which I did not know. The cops heard a completely different version of the story than what actually happened. But that was not surprising. My wife had claimed she would not testify against me, but could not get me to respond to her. She said she was glad the charges were dropped. I asked if she was glad, before she knew I had recorded her and Peter. She did not respond. I handed over my phone to show her and her lawyer the footage I had recorded. I do not think my lawyer wanted me to show it, but they already knew it existed, and I could not reveal it to anyone else yet. I told her Peter's wife would eventually see the video. That was when she told me that doing so would mean losing out on a substantial amount of money I would never earn at my job. I asked if money and greed were the reason she cheated. She had the audacity to say she did it for us. The argument that erupted over that comment alone lasted more than an hour. We took a lunch break, and I ate alone for an hour just to get away from everyone. In a twisted way, she had given me good news, but it was wrapped in garbage. The lawyers were thrilled about the potential land sale. They knew we would find out about it eventually, and any immediate sale would require my agreement, so they revealed it. I can cancel the whole deal if I choose. It will not cost Peter anything yet, but it would prevent me from making a lot of money. But I cannot make a lot of money unless my soon-to-be ex-wife also profits. When I returned to the meeting, my wife explained how everything started. She was at one of those home showings. Peter's agency was showcasing 2 of the homes. They knew each other from the same social circles, but he approached her and asked if we were happy living where we were. From there, he explained he knew an agent who specialized in business and manufacturing sites. He laid out his idea, and I guess she saw dollar signs. Peter, a trusted figure in our area, could likely buy up the land from locals more easily than an outsider. The 2 agents working together could buy low and sell high. The deal could not be made without us because of the positioning of our land. Peter and my wife got involved talking to locals and planning things out. Then they got involved physically. So, 6 months before I knew my marriage was over, it was already finished. She swore they just got caught up in their excitement over the money. She said it did not mean anything. It was just sex. I wanted to break my recent record for cursing, but I tried to maintain my composure. I asked if they had used protection. She said they did at first, but since she was on the pill, they stopped. 6 days, 6 days, I shouted, calling her a disgusting, worthless whore. She asked what I meant, so I explained that when a man ejaculates inside a woman, his fluids can stay inside her for that long. I wanted to vomit thinking about what she subjected me to. I asked how she would feel if I went to a prostitute, put my fingers inside her, and then put them in my wife's mouth. Yes, it is disgusting, but it is equivalent to what she did to me. She tried to claim she took showers. I told her unless she could stand on her head and spread her legs to rinse out, she was a filthy slut. And she wondered why I looked at her with such disgust. It is because I am repulsed. She is disgusting and subjected me to things I cannot even think about, not to mention what she did with her mouth. Peter can keep her. She is tainted with his filth now. I had to get out of there. I was useless for the rest of the day. I went and got drunk for the first time since my post-divorce party at my dad's cabin. Part of me should be thrilled, and I am, knowing that if things go as planned, I will be able to pay my lawyers in full, repay my parents generously, and have a substantial amount of money to start fresh almost anywhere. But the hoops I have had to jump through to get that money make me feel even sicker than my wife does. 3 lawyers hammered out an agreement. Our 2 lawyers wrote up an even split divorce. We cannot finalize the divorce until the land sells or the deal falls through, but once that happens, my marriage is over. I am not in a rush to be single again or to remarry. I have successfully ghosted her despite still being legally married. I do not have to see or talk to her, but it does bother me that we are still connected in any way. I am forbidden from contacting Peter's wife, now or in the future. I cannot show the footage of my wife to her parents or family. She has already informed them that we are divorcing and admitted to her affair. On the plus side, I got my job back and start next week at a new site. There is talk of getting the charges Peter brought against me sealed, so my record stays clean, thank God. I am still struggling with her excuses and her attitude about them. Granted, I would be away for 10 days at a time. I never suspected anything, and our sex life was consistent. I wish it had not been now. At least those in sexless marriages do not have to worry about sharing a kiss with someone who has been intimate with a stranger. Her kissing me after putting her tongue in his mouth or elsewhere was like having a stranger spit in my mouth without my consent. But sick, cheating individuals like my wife and Peter do not seem to understand that. I can only imagine Peter's sex life with his wife continued during their affair. I wonder if she has any clue she indirectly performed oral sex on my wife. Knowing what I know now, I am glad I punched Peter in the mouth, still glad I did not kill them or myself. But they are both revolting, like licking a hobo's rear end in an alley on a pile of trash. People just disgust me now. How she could go back and forth between 2 men is beyond me. I had many chances to cheat over the years, but never did, primarily out of loyalty. The idea of being with someone who could have been with multiple partners recently is insane. Condoms are not foolproof. They can break and do not protect against everything. True safe sex is monogamy, but it only works when both people are faithful and have not been with half the population. Things could have turned out far worse, but if everything goes as planned, I will be okay. However, it will be next year before things get moving. I will work as I have for years, but will not have a place to call home. She can stay in the house until the sale and cover all costs. The house will be demolished, so no one will live there afterward. Most of our land is undeveloped. There is no feasible way to move the house. When I need to sign paperwork, I will be notified, and I will show up to sign. Then our paths will diverge faster than my wife's legs for a $100 bill, and I can move on with cash in hand. But she has ruined me, and it is not fair. She tarnished me just by being associated with me. She revealed truths I did not want to know, because it all goes back to the first comment on my very first post. I know not every woman is like my wife. I can attest that not every man is a scumbag like Peter, but those people ruin it for the rest of us. Why does it seem that 2 loyal people with a great bond never meet? Almost every post here is about a good guy or girl who got involved with a cheater and the fallout from that bad choice. Forget about trusting again. I cannot get past the idea of ever wanting to trust someone like that again. Nobody is worth what she put me through. And she sure as hell was not. It infuriates me that he is going to get away with it. I guess the world will have to wait and see if karma catches up with him like I did. I do not see any reason for another update. The divorce will happen. The money will be split between our accounts, and I will never see or speak to her again. That is how it will end, regardless of the delay. I want to thank those who gave me advice, told me to keep my mouth shut, and urged me to get lawyers. To those who encouraged me to stay strong, I appreciate you. To those who thought I should end it all, go find a better way to spend your time. I will respond to a few comments after posting this. Then I will probably fade away. I wish healing for all of you who have been cheated on, just as I wish it for myself. Until then. Edit. This will be my last comment on the thread. I appreciate those who have supported me and those who gave me a kick in the ass when I needed it. To the haters, I respect your right to your opinion. Just know I will not be losing any sleep over it. As things stand, a sale of the land in April or May is most likely. The industrial real estate agent has cleared many of the hurdles for the company to buy the land. No idea when clearing and building would start, but I will have my money by then and will not care. The process is fast-tracked as much as possible. My wife still calls or texts occasionally, but I do not answer, read, or respond. I do not believe she ever cared about me. Giving her body to random people for their gratification is something I cannot comprehend. The fact that she can do that disgusts me, and I want nothing to do with her or anyone like her. The fact that I valued her body more than she did truly saddens me. But whatever, I am done with relationships. There is no way I could bring a child into this world with any woman due to my wife's actions. I do want kids, but after the land sale, I might consider going the surrogate route. After her infidelity, the only thing my wife could possibly offer is children. Women do not need men for kids now, and I certainly do not need another unfaithful, disloyal wife to do it. At least I will know my children are being raised morally and ethically. My ex-wife has neither of those qualities. Her actions proved she can never be a good wife. She proved she would be a horrible mother. God help any child she brings into this world. Have you ever faced a betrayal that shook you to your core? How did you find the strength to move on, or are you still searching for it like I am? Share your thoughts and stories below. Let's support each other in this journey of healing and recovery.